Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Networking Mondays. We're very glad you're with us today. It's May 10th, 2021. For those people on Zoom, if you have any questions, please just open up the chat box and put your question in the chat box. And as our speaker takes a break, we'll be sure to get those questions answered. And for those people watching on Facebook right now, please just enter your comments into the comment field, and we will be sure to get your questions answered. I am monitoring that feed. Please note this event is being recorded and is currently live on Facebook. The recording will be on the Career DFW Facebook page and the Career USA YouTube channel for others to view in the future. By participating in this event, and if you post a comment in the chat box or have your microphone or camera on, you give consent for your comment, name, and pictures to appear. Well, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jeff Morris. Back in 2008, I started a website called careerdfw.org to help those in their job search by putting everything someone needed to know about their job search in one place. In 2012, I launched careerusa.org to help people outside the Dallas-Fort Worth area. I've written a book called What I've Learned About Your Job Search that you may not know. It is available on Amazon. Since 2007, I've been facilitating and leading the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group. The group's been around since the late 1990s. I took it over in 2007, and I'll tell you about our upcoming programming this Friday at the end of this session. And since 2017, I've been a member of the Practice Interview Team, which is also known as the PIC Crew. I've been doing that since 2017. Well, each week we have a different speaker talking about networking. I think we've gone through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8, 9, 10, 11. We've gone through 11 speakers so far. Our speaker today will be number 12. So Locke Alderson is with us today. He's a career consultant, a recruiting consultant, a contract recruiter, and he's going to talk about networking in the new job market. No, networking is, well, that's the old job title. You changed my title on me, I think. So Locke, thank you for being with us. Networking to network.
Thank you, Jeff, for having me. It seems like old home week with all the people. I see a few familiar faces on the chat, on the participant window. So go ahead, and you've got your screen. You're going to share my screen with me?
You should be good to go. I mean, you should be able to take it over.
Well, it's not working, Jeff. I don't know why.
Not working. All right, I'll stop sharing here. Let's see if you can get it now. There we go.
Come on. From the beginning. Well, for those of you who see me up there on the screen, I have been doing this for a few years. My background is 41 years in the industry. And prior to that, since that time, I've had about 19 years working as a career consultant with those in career transition. Most recently with Lee Heck Harrison, I spent about 2 years with them. After they purchased Mullen International, I was unemployed with Mullen when they laid off all their Dallas consultants for about a month before Lee Heck Harrison picked me up. And there's my industry experience there as well. If you're interested in today's presentation, even though Jeff is recording it, I'll be happy to send you the slide deck that goes along with that. You might ask the question, why networking? Okay. And what is networking to network? Well, basically networking is an exchange of information or services among people, individuals, or groups. Specifically, it's cultivation of productive relationships for employment or business. Let's see if I can take this off my screen. And do it that way, okay? But basically, it's building relationships with other people. And in other words, it's not about you. It's a two-way process of giving and receiving. The people have said is building relationships, something we have been doing all of our lives. It can be those kind of things which are good at networking. Well, not all of us are good at networking, but again, the scripture, and I go to Bible frequently when I was in job search mode. A verse from Ecclesiastes 4:12 says, "A person standing alone can be attacked and defeated. And when we're job hunting, it's easy to get defeated and down and discouraged. But two can stand back to back and conquer. And three are even better, for a triple braided cord is not easily broken." That's just something about networking. Again, it's something that people do. Some people, I know, I worked with somebody at E-Systems for a number of years. When he was finally laid off, he had neglected in networking after 15 years. And so he didn't really have much of a network to start with. I maintained that as I went along because I think that's important. So networking and job search. It's the most effective way to land a position. One of the reasons that I say that is by my last 5 positions were all found through networking. Who did I know and who did they know? Introduced me to somebody else, and that resulted in a job. I know when I moved from Mullen International, Lehigh Harrison, I was interviewed and had to submit a resume after I'd been interviewed and offered the job. So that's the power of networking that you have. It varies by the level of the position that you're working on. It can be as low as 35, 40%, it can be as high as 90% at the upper levels of the job market. Again, you can see some of the statistics there from ABC, Bureau of Labor Statistics, Harvard Business Review. Again, those are all slotted depending upon the population that they're working with. And why is networking so successful? Well, again, people like to do business, people that they know and like. Networking makes you a recommended member of a smaller applicant pool or labor pool. And often the hidden job market is the source of candidates is from networking. Again, those are the jobs that are not advertised or not posted anywhere. This is a slide I took from, excuse me, I shouldn't say took, I borrowed from Lehigh Harrison. They indicate that about 57% of the candidates that they work with result with networking. They emphasize networking heavily. And the internet job posting is another way that people go through that. Again, you can see that those statistics have changed. When I started in the recruiting business in HR, the newspaper was probably the #1 source. Anywhere from 45 to 50% of candidates came through newspaper ads. When do you start networking? Well, if you haven't started, the time to start is now. You should always be networking, whether that's with the person next to you at the dry cleaners or at the grocery store or at a soccer game, a baseball game. Get to know the people around you. Introduce yourself. Take a minute to find out who they are. You should be attending unemployed groups that are available. 2 to 3 groups a week. The best source of finding some of those is on careerdfw.org. There's a whole source of those. Their calendar lists a number of them. 2 of the more popular groups here in the Dallas area, the Frisco Connect and South Lake Focus Group. And they're groups where you can meet unemployed people. But don't limit your networking to unemployed. You want to meet with some of the employed people through professional groups like the Dallas chapter of the CPAs, American Training and Development Group, Financial Executive Networking Group, Marketing Group, Networking Group, North Texas Association of Mortgage Professionals was a group that when I was doing work with Mullen International, working with a lot of mortgage candidates, mortgage brokers, a lot of work. And that was a group that met regularly at the Prestonwood Country Club in North Dallas once a month. Another group, you can go to service groups or business groups like Chamber of Commerce, Knights of Columbus, Rotary, are all groups that have regular meetings, and they'll take, even though now, I shouldn't say even though now that they're back in meeting face to face, it's easier to attend some of those, and some people will sponsor you to go to meetings like that. Alumni groups. I happen to have attended Texas A&M for my undergraduate degree, and that's a group that has a couple of former students associated. They don't call them alumni at A&M. And meetups. You can Google meetups. In any profession here in the Dallas area, there's at least 50 different meetups that are available to you. And accountability groups. They're important because an accountability group, if you have that partner, that second or third person, they can help you when you get down and discouraged, and you can offer them encouragement as well. People have similar needs that they may be willing to share. If I can't get the job and you have a background like mine, I want to encourage people to consider you. So that's another way to do that. So how do you start networking? Well, first you need to start with a networking plan. It doesn't have to be something very formal and structured. It can be something fairly basic, just to name the companies, making a list of the target companies that you're interested in. Data Axle, which is now known as Data Reference Solutions, used to be Reference USA, is another source of information about companies. The databases of Dallas-Fort Worth companies and NAIC codes, which is something that the government produces. You can research target companies and industries. You can use LinkedIn's company section and look up companies and find out information about them. And you might also ask, well, how do I find companies? Well, do a people search for yourself on LinkedIn. Look up your profession, whether that's an accountant or a sales rep, limit it to the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and look at some of the people that show up on that. Hopefully you're going to show up in the first 10 screens. That's about 100 thumbnail sketches of people. But if you don't, take a look at some of the profiles of the people that are there. Take a look at the verbiage that's there. That's some verbiage that you can include in your profile, but it's also a list of companies that have work like the work that you perform. They may not have current openings, but those are companies that you may be wanting to start networking with. You can take information from Glassdoor about companies in terms of the reviews and the ratings of the companies, and you can reach out to contacts on LinkedIn. You want to determine who your companies are, your LinkedIn companies. Kip Lipson and Mike Ray used to teach a class on Reference USA, which is now, I want to say that that's the company that it is, Data Solutions. If they're doing that, it's certainly a worthwhile attendance to their presentation on that. Information about certain companies' industries, the names of contacts. Some of those companies have the names of the executives on that, and advice on your campaigns. The data reference solutions is available at your public library, and a reference librarian can show you how to use it. In some cases, if you have a library card, you may be able to access it from home and make a list of the companies that you're interested in here, say in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, or if you're looking in other areas like Atlanta or New York. I know when I was with Mullen International, I had a candidate from the bank here in Dallas. He was looking to go to work in New York City. We helped him find some things in New York City using resources online. Well, developing your network, you want to start with your primary contacts. Who do you know? Your family, your friends, your professional associates. Making a list of those and getting in touch with them. It doesn't have to be anything simple, but you want to reach out to them generally by telephone. Why by telephone? It's the method we use for contacting people. If you have some phone phobia, you might want to write down or script out what you want to say. Basically, it doesn't have to be anything lengthy or formal, but you can list out what you're interested in, your name, a little bit about your background if they don't know you, and talk to information you're trying to develop a relationship with them. Start with a low-hanging fruit, the people that you know, and as you get more comfortable making those calls, making those contacts, you can reach out to others. So that primary contact can be your neighbors, social acquaintances that you have, that you've met socially, classmates and alumni, if you've kept in touch with some of the people from your school, teachers and professors, former co-workers, clients and vendors, anyone that you've written a check to in the last year. Maybe you're your hairstylist, as I said, or your cleaners, if you've developed any kind of relationship with people there. Those are some people that you can keep in touch with. Your Christmas card list is another one I have. When I was out of work from Siebel, I was laid off in 2002. And in 2003, November 2003, we sent out our Christmas card list, which we do every year. I sent one to my former boss. January the 2nd, he calls me up and said, would you have any interest in coming back to work on contract? And I said, of course. And of course, the next day he calls me with some bad news. He says, I've talked to the CFO and he says, no more contract employees, but would you be interested in coming back full-time? And I went back to work full-time. So do keep in touch with those people that are on your network. You never know how that's going to result in a contact that leads to a job or a job interview. I know we had another candidate that I worked with from MEG, a group that I'm in on Thursday mornings. He'd been out of work for about a year. He was out in the alley doing something with the lawn clippings or something like that. He encountered a neighbor across the alley from him. The guy said, are you still out of work and still looking? And the guy says, yes. He said, well, I've got an opening I think you'd be perfect for. Interviewed the guy and he got a job. Here's somebody that he's known for a long time, and yet it took a year to get in touch with him and land a job situation. Start with a goal of 1 or 2 informational interviews or calls a day. You want to plan out your calls and script them out. Doesn't have to be verbatim what you're going to say, but have a good idea of what you want to say. Have it down. You may want to type it out and double space it so it's easy to glance at when you're on the phone. Your message needs to be clear and concise and focused. It basically is your 30-second commercial, perhaps a minute resume. They're very similar, just a little bit more details on those. and role play with a friend to help you get started in situations like that. Makes it easy, gives you confidence. Your secondary contacts that you want to get in touch with are people at your target companies that you may know. Be respectful of those people's time, because their full-time job is not to talk to you on the telephone. They may have a job that they're getting paid for, or else they'll be joining you in the networking circles. Be organized and be prepared. And don't have a long-winded sales presentation. And be sure and take a breath when you're doing that. I know when the telemarketers call, sometimes they never take a breath before they're done with 2 minutes worth of talking. And again, can't get a word in edgewise on those. You need to develop some kind of tracking system. And by that, I mean it can be something very simple and something in Outlook or Excel where you're keeping that available. And there are some templates in Excel that you can use, or on the internet for keeping track of people. It should contain the basic information about the contact that you've made, the date, the information, columns of information about what you talked about, and secondary contacts you need to have also to list how they were referred to you. And if you had a contact for the last conversation, what was the topic, and any follow-up that you need to do on that. And remember, looking for a job is a full-time job, but it shouldn't be a job that keeps you 80 hours a week. Make a balance, make a calendar that you keep to it. Do it a week or two in advance. I know when I left a company, you generally turn in your laptop computer, and of course your contacts are in there, and maybe your calendar's in it. But keep a calendar. I know I still keep a calendar even though I'm retired, and keep it. My wife and I sat down yesterday to balance our calendars so that we aren't conflicting with different things that we're working on. And try and maintain a positive attitude. As I mentioned, it's a time that you could be discouraged pretty easily when you get those no's on the telephone call that nobody's interested in you. You get those reject letters that they've gone ahead with another candidate. You need to have business cards, even though we haven't been meeting face-to-face. Face-to-face meetings are coming back now, and you need to have that be part of your image. It gives a sense of who you are and the talents that you possess on your business card. And if you don't have one, you need to make one. Okay, it's a one that you want to get and ask for others for. So what do you need to put on a business card? Well, there's some things that you need to have on it: your name and telephone number and your email address. I'd also put your LinkedIn URL. There's mine, and it's how that can be addressed, so somebody can easily type that in and go to your LinkedIn profile. If you have that on your resume, that's also how you need to list it on your resume, so if they click on that, it will automatically take them to your LinkedIn profile. You need to have the job target, or the position that you've occupied, what you're looking for. What's the position that you're interested in? Some additional things that you can have. You can get them at a business supply store like Office Depot. You can go to Vistaprint.com. They used to be the cheapest, but that's no longer true. I checked with them today, and I think they have 100 for $15. I also saw other one on Google when I did that for 500 business cards for $8.50. Generally, a good idea to have black on white cards, black text on white cardstock is the standard. Make sure that it's legible, not too small a type font. You can be creative a little bit if you want. If you're in real estate, you may want to put a picture because it's often used as an identifier with people. But generally, pictures on resumes and business cards is not something we do. You want to be sure that it adds value to that. And because people write on business cards, frequently I know I keep a pocket full of them when I go out to make notes on things. Don't coat your business card with a plastic coating. I know I've seen a number of those that are coated on both sides, which makes it difficult to write on them. You want to keep a supply with you, and keep a case. I know Jeff used to hand those out at when he was having the North Dallas focus group, are available to you. If possible, hand the person the card directly. I know the Japanese have a very ceremony where it's two-handed. Hand it to you with the business card is in both hands and hand it to you, and there's almost a ceremony that accompanies that. Networking groups. Find groups that work for you. Career DFW is the best source that I know of to find groups. The Career Search Network is another one. Google, as I mentioned, you can do meetups to find groups, and they're often affinity type groups. Meetup.com in Dallas reveals about 50 different groups. There are also professional associations that meet regularly. And a lot of the professional associations now are meeting online and they don't charge for meeting, whereas sometimes when they were face-to-face, there's a charge for the lunch or the dinner or the drink that goes with that. Try to narrow down your groups to 3 or 4 different groups that give you the most value. You may want to volunteer to be active in those groups, and that provides leads to other things. I know that's how I ended up getting the job with Ball International. I've been a volunteer doing things like this. It's speaking in groups, like the Frisco Career Transition Workshop, and that led to a 90-day contract, which led to 4 years and 90 days before that contract came to an end when Mullen sold out. Some of the volunteer activities that you can do, and they can lead to a job. It's the answer to what you've been doing lately, and it's good for your morale to make a contribution. I ran into somebody who was networking, was out looking. He was at the animal shelter here in Plano. Another gentleman from one of the networking group got a part-time, full-time job at the hospital because he volunteered in the emergency room there as an EMT. There are things like the Plano Balloon Festival. I noticed that the golf tournament coming out that's here in the local area was looking for 50 volunteers for that. It's a way to meet people. Go through just some of those that are available. Habitat for Humanity, the food banks, being a membership committee or reception desk person that's there. When you're doing attending network meetings, you need to know what you're going for. Be prepared. Have an objective when you go to meetings to meet people, to make at least 4 or 5, say, new contacts that you don't know, and let people know. It's not a time where you want to approach people and say, I'm John Jones. I understand you're with ABC Company. Do you have any jobs for me? People don't like to have the bite put on them for a job. So you typically want to develop a relationship so that people can get to know you and what your skills are, what your experience is, before you want to even talk about a job at their company. And they will approach you if they have something. You want to arrive early and be confident about who you are. It's good also to have perhaps somebody, a wingman, to go with you, or a wing person, to be politically correct, that can introduce you to some people. And go, if it's a face-to-face meeting, certainly dress professionally like that. Even on some of the Zoom meetings right now, you want to at least have your shirt and tie, or shirt, casual shirt rather than just a t-shirt when you're on a Zoom meeting. And reach out to people and listen to what they're having to say. And mingle with a group. And if you are face-to-face, you do want to exchange business cards. And don't expect either any kind of networking events to have an instant success. Those are the exception rather than the rule. Another type of information which you're talking about is informational interviews. It's frequently covered on the interviewing sessions. I know that's covered on Wednesday afternoons on at least one of the sessions that they do there. But informational interviews are just that. You're asking for 15 or 20 minutes to find out about a company or to share some information. Again, if you ask for 15 minutes, stick to that agenda, because people's job is not to network or interview with you. The questions that you have are about the person, the content, company, the industry, and ask for their input. Ask about their experience and ask who do they know that you should be in touch with after they've gotten to know you. That should be your goal, is to have at least a couple of contacts after the informational interview. And you never know when an informational interview can result in a full-time interview. Having had the situation, well, we're looking for somebody like you. Would you have any interest in interviewing for the job? That's something that you can do. Or conversely, if you have an interview and it isn't going well, you might ask the question, it doesn't seem like we've got a fit here. I know you've interviewed some people with my kind of background. Who are some of the companies that I should be talking to who might have an interest in me? And you want to send thank you notes to the people that are involved. And it's a good idea when you're networking to be back in touch with your network at least every 4 to 6 weeks. It can be something as simple as a phone call, just one to give you an update, or an email, an update on how I'm doing. I've had some successes, haven't found the right opportunity yet. Should you find the right should you hear of an opportunity that matches my background, I'd welcome the chance to follow up on it. Something as simple as that. You'd be amazed at the results that can provide. And thank you notes. This is just a sample thank you note. You want to include some things in the thank you note. Thanks for the time that you're able to spend with me. The opportunity we discussed, in this case, is mortgage underwriting. What was one thing that you talked about during the course of the interview? I indicate that you're still interested, that you can make a contribution to the company, and you're looking forward to the next steps, whether that be a face-to-face interview or meeting again with the boss, the hiring manager, whatever it is that you want to send. And send it to the persons that you've interviewed with. Don't just send it to the one recruiter or hiring manager and say, would you distribute this to the rest of the team? Because in many cases, they won't. Jeff, I think I'm about done. I've kind of run through that in a hurry.
All right, Jeff, you did go pretty great. Well, there was one question at the very beginning. You quoted something from Ecclesiastes. The person would like to know the reference again.
The reference from Ecclesiastes is Ecclesiastes 4:12. As I say, it's a verse of scripture. I like it in several different translations. Sometimes it's a cord that cannot easily be broken. But again, you think about yourself when you're standing up. Sometimes it's easy to get discouraged. So having 2 or 3 people together can offer some encouragement to you.
And that's why we talk about get a support group. I mean, have a group of people who are, in transition, who can understand what you're going through, and you all help each other, which can be very powerful. Questions anybody has? If you've got a question, please, you can unmute your mic and ask away. Questions. I did put in the chat box the link to the Reference USA presentation that Kip and Mike did for the North Dallas Plano group back in September. So the presentation starts about 30 minutes into that LinkedIn or into that YouTube video.
It's worthwhile to do that. I know they've updated the material. I just didn't have the current results for it. So
right, and I know they're going to be presenting it somewhere here in the next couple of weeks. So reach out to Mike or Kip or join them on or connect with them on LinkedIn. I'm sure you'll hear about it. I'm not sure. I just remember seeing something that they're presenting in 2 different places over the next 2 weeks. Questions anybody has? Going once? Going twice? Well, if you'd like to get this copy of this presentation, you can email Locke Alderson@gmail.com, and just let them know you want this presentation. And Locke, I'd say thank you very, very much. I'm going to, let me see here. I'm going to take the screen back. Boy, every time Zoom keeps changing. Every time I look at Zoom, they've moved all the controls into something different. If you'd like to connect to Locke on LinkedIn, his profile looks something like this. Be sure to send a personal note. Always send that personal note. You're looking for that blue connect button. If you see a white connect button, that means you can't send a personal note. So look for that blue connect button. Send a personal note, let them know that you saw him here. That would be really, really great. Next week, our speaker is Stephanie Michelle. She's actually from New Mexico, and she's going to talk about remote networking. So how do you make those connections? And she actually wrote a book called The Confident Introvert. And I know I'm an introvert. I don't know how confident I am. So it should be a very interesting presentation next week. Whoops. I'm sorry. I'm moving stuff on my slide deck and not showing you all. Career DFW and Career USA, we're putting on presentations 5 days a week. Hopefully you'll join us. Grab your lunch and learn every day. Tomorrow on LinkedIn Tuesdays, Kurt Vondermatter will be with us to talk about LinkedIn from a recruiter's eye. Kurt spends $10,000 to $15,000 a year on the full-blown recruiting package. He's going to tell you how it works, what it looks like. He'll show you what it looks like and how he finds you. He's a retained recruiter, and he's going to tell you what you need to do so that you're found and what will pique your interest, what will pique his interest when he finds you. On Wednesday, we do Interviewing Wednesday at 1 o'clock. We'll be on session number 2 of 13, preparing for a specific interview and networking part 1. On Thursday, we have a special guest speaker, Tony Bashara, who owns Babbage & Associates, a large one of the oldest recruiting firms in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, will be with us, and he will talk about the top 10 big mistakes of resume writing. Tony sees hundreds of resumes every week. He's placed thousands of people over the years he's worked there. So he has seen it all. So join us this Thursday for the top 10 mistakes of resume writing. And then this Friday at the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group, our speaker is Rick Martinez. He's the owner of R2 Technologies. He's a technical recruiter. He's going to talk about why your next job should be a contract role, why you should consider that. And I think in the technical fields, it may be a lot more than a lot of other fields that are out there. The Women of Wonder, Women of Wisdom, they don't meet until they meet on the first and third weeks. They don't meet this week, but they'll be meeting a week from Friday. If you'd like to join the Career DFW and Career USA LinkedIn groups, you're welcome to do so. If you join the Career DFW LinkedIn group, we have over 13,000 members, and you're welcome to join. You don't have to be in the DFW area. Anybody to expand your connections, it'll allow you to make more networking contacts. This session has been recorded. It will be on the Career DFW Facebook page and the Career USA YouTube channel. It'll take a couple hours for YouTube to upload this video. Please follow us on Facebook. Every time we go live, you'll get a little alert on your phone. And if you subscribe to our YouTube channel, every time we post a new video, you'll be able to find out about that new video. The YouTube channel looks something like this. Be sure to click on playlist, because then I've grouped every time I post a video, I go and I stick it into a different playlist. North Dallas Plano speakers, effective resumes, interviewing, LinkedIn, networking. And where you see that red arrow at the very bottom, don't click on the video, but click where it says view full playlist. Then what will happen is up will pop a list from newest to oldest, and it'll have all the different videos that have been posted and who the speakers were. So you can go back, and it's probably the best way to go back and watch one of these videos. We don't really tend to pass out the slide decks, because without the words to go with the slides, sometimes it misses a lot of meaning. So, but if you'd like to get the slide deck from today, Locke is more than willing to give that to everybody. All right, if you're not receiving emails about our workshops, you found out about us because of LinkedIn or Facebook, you're welcome to join our mailing list. Career USA, the +, subscribe at groups.io. I control the mailing list. You will never be spammed. You'll get 6 or 7 emails a week. Every day you will get the title of the topic we're talking about, along with the Zoom link, so that you'll be able to jump right in with us every day as we're doing things. Please note, Career DFW, we're a 501c3 nonprofit organization. Locke is a volunteer. I'm a volunteer. I've never gotten paid to do this over the last 12 years. This is what I do to give back to job seekers around the United States. We survive on donations. It helps pay for Zoom, the web names, the web hostings, anything I can't get donated. You know, that's what it pays for. So please consider making a donation when you get your next job. So thank you for joining us today. Hopefully we'll see you later in the week, one of the other workshops. So everybody, Locke, thank you once again. Everybody else, have a great week.
Thanks, Jeff.